Hi guys, and welcome to your daily tarot reading for Thursday, the 26th of August 2021. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to use the amazing Morgan Greer deck for today's reading. I love this deck. It's really simple and it's got bright colors and there aren't a lot of distractions in the cards. So some tarot decks have loads of symbols everywhere and it's super complicated. This is very straightforward and kind of minimal. And in my experience, using cards that are pretty straightforward, they allow you to really tap into your intuition. If you're using your kind of, ability to analyze every detail, and there are like 50 details in there, then you don't have so much internal space to let a message arise from within. You're just kind of reading what's coming up. And I think it's a dual process where you see a symbol and you interpret it, but also you look at how it makes you feel and what your intuition says about it. So that's why I like the Morgan Greer deck. Okay, so let's see what Thursday the 26th is about. Thursday the 26th, we've got the Five of Swords, okay. The Six of Wands. And the Page of Swords. Okay, so we've got the potential for triumph and real success and victory. But then also we have a tendency to overreact and to get angry and to really, if someone stands in your way or you feel like you're being challenged, to really let them have it and to overcompensate for your fear or your insecurity by puffing yourself up and pretending you're something you're not in order to get what it is you want. So it's a day where you really can do very well, but you have to watch out for bad behavior, especially as it relates to you feeling like you have a chip on your shoulder or feeling like you're less than. That could be triggered by other people. And to really watch for overreactions and arguments and really saying things that you'll regret later on. Like getting really frustrated and then calling someone a name. And that's the kind of thing you can't take back. So even if you apologize, I'm sorry I called you this name, that name is always going to be out there. And it's always going to hang in between you and that other person. So I think the cards are saying there's really a lot of potential here, but they're also warning you that you may be the problem, especially when it comes to your perception of things and how you interpret it. And then this desire to retaliate and to really launch into it and go on a tirade. Try and avoid tirades today if you can. Okay, so the Five of Swords, battle scene. He's won, they've lost. The sun's setting, so it's game over, okay? And it's game over on the physical world. So this battle, it's not just that feelings have been hurt and maybe bodies have been injured, but it's something has happened that's irreversible. So let's say they operate in some really weird military social system, and this battle was the final in some sort of important competition that gives people a classification as to social rank, for instance. So the winner of this competition is going to be seen as like some sort of nobleman who lives in a mansion and he has servants and life becomes easy. And the people who lose are now shipped off to the Colosseum to fight the lions or something like that. Actions have serious real life consequences. If you win the race at the Olympics, you get a gold medal and then endorsements for the rest of your life. It's an event, a life-changing event that has real life consequences. And if you engage in a battle today, and I don't think it's so important whether you win or you lose, but it's the actual, I am engaging in some sort of warlike behavior with another person or a company or some sort of opponent, that it's really going to have unpleasant consequences in the sense that you're not going to trust people, or you will lose something, or you feel like you've done someone wrong and you feel guilty about it and you feel like you can't change that. So it's really important to think before you speak, to think before you act, and not to really do something that doesn't sit right with you, because the card is saying the likelihood of reversing that and amending it, if you regret it, is difficult and it's almost impossible. And that's interesting because that's not usually what I get from the Five of Swords. The sun setting isn't usually the thing that draws my attention, but that's really what I feel is important today, that the root chakra goes under, and then certain circumstances are almost set in stone. Ask yourself at the beginning of this, why am I reacting? Why do I feel so threatened? Why do I feel so small and I have to engage in this conflict to feel bigger again? Usually it's because there's a kernel of truth to what's being said. You know, if you're an alcoholic and you're sitting there slurring your words and someone says, "Are you drunk again?" then someone who's not in denial will say, "Yeah, actually I am. And I'm ashamed of myself." Someone who is in denial will say, "How dare you ask me that question? As if I would be drunk. I hardly touched a drop." You know, it's because there's a kernel of truth to it, and it threatens your future drinking. And if you are invested in that and you want to protect it, then of course you're going to go into denial and say, no, of course I don't do that. So if someone touches a nerve, why is that nerve being touched? Try and be really open with yourself and say, okay, I'm really getting into like battle mode here because actually they revealed an insecurity or hurt feelings. And maybe it's time for me to accept that rather than to battle it out just to keep save face. So try not to save face. 6 of Wands is a quest that's successful. So anything that you care about really is something that you should pursue, and try and stay away from excessive competition or pitting yourself against someone or other people, or looking at something like starting your own business. Like let's say, oh, I want to be an astrologer. Oh, okay, but there are already so many astrologers out there, I won't be able to do it because the market's been saturated. That's kind of defeatist thinking. There's always going to be space for you. If you have a desire and a passion for it, do it regardless of other people's actions. And if you're meant to do it, you'll find your own niche. You'll find your own little path through that and your own space in something that may have seemed saturated before. So it's not fighting in your own mind about what other people are doing and how you where you rank in the hierarchy. And it's almost like the 5 of Swords, it's not that you're hurting other people, it's almost like you're fighting yourself internally. So you really have to watch out for negative self-thinking, for self-criticism, for despair, for unconstructive and unhelpful kind of beliefs and things. So think of your ego is kind of awakened today, and it takes up a space in your head, and it's walking around trying to stir it up and trying to start trouble. So if you do see yourself getting flustered, or you're puffing yourself up to assert your dominance or whatever it may be, just take a moment and say, is this really in my interest to behave like this, or am I just triggered? And should I maybe calm down a little bit? And the Page of Swords says the big problem of the day is this tendency to feel less than, to have a chip on your shoulder, and to be reactive and to say, I'm not listening to the truth. I'm going to be in denial, thank you very much. It's going to be much more successful if you drop all that and you just focus on what makes you happy and what motivates you, and you pursue that on your own. Or if you're working with other people, you let things slide rather than nitpicking and constantly being reactive to every little word and what someone said or what they implied or what could be. So the Page of Swords, I'm saying that because the Page of Swords is really inexperienced and he doesn't have a clue, and he's operating in the element of swords, which is thinking and communication and perspectives. So he sometimes puts his foot in it, and sometimes he just doesn't get it at all. It goes whoosh over his head. So there is room for miscommunication. Something that was a compliment may be perceived as an insult, or a compliment, the other person is so insecure that they just feel like they go bright red and they blush and they become uncomfortable and resentful that you even gave them a compliment. So there's really the potential for miscommunication, for getting the wrong end of the stick. And the worst thing that can happen is if you get hooked into that and you go extreme mode and you let everyone else have it. Because remember, the message here is these things will have real life consequences. So it's the difference between having a friend and thinking, oh, if I mess up, if I call my friend a name, then I'll just apologize and we'll go back to the way we are. That may be one way of looking at things, which is kind of naive, okay? The other way of looking at things is I've got a friend and they are saying this horrible thing to me, and they've now crossed the line that they can never uncross. Yes, I've got an apology, but really the apology, I didn't want an apology. I didn't want to be called those names to begin with, and now I feel differently about that person regardless of the apology. So sometimes things are said and done and spoken and explained, and there's no way of unexplaining them. So being overly reactive today will not serve you. Focus on your successes and where you can move forward in your life and what motivates you and what's fun, and minimize the conflict. There's just no positive outcome. It's a lose-lose. Sometimes an argument, at least you're able to clarify your point or to change someone's opinion or to, get the facts out. But today it's just conflict for the sake of conflict. It's just circling the same negative space over and over and over again, downward spiral. Avoid that altogether and use your fresh ideas to enrich and to make your path clearer by assessing things and being analytical and learning and being willing to learn. And don't use your mind and your words and your intellect as a weapon. Don't weaponize yourself. Okay, number-wise, we've got 5 and 6 is 11 and 1 is 12. 1 and 2 is 3. And 3 is about new beginnings and communication and the mind and perspective. So the new beginnings are in your passions and in your life purpose. The perspectives are a little bit off. Communication may throw you horribly. So try and take things in your stride. Let things go, especially if they're trivial and not particularly important. And try and give the benefit of the doubt, especially if it cools you off and you don't flare up. Okay, so have a great day, and I hope you're able to really focus on the good stuff and to avoid the negatives here. If you would like a personal reading with me, please get in touch via my website. It's gregoryscott.com. On the front page, click on Book Your Reading to audio reading with me. I use the tarot, astrology, and numerology in my personal readings. And if you have any questions about your life purpose or where you should be living or what's coming up in future, what your vocational aptitudes are, what's destined for you in love and money or fame. If you have any questions at all, then please do get in touch with me for a personal reading. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe and share the video online. Have an amazing day, and I'll speak to you tomorrow.